Dr. Sazawal is a policy analyst and a commentator who specializes in local governance and intra-community issues affecting political dynamics within the Kashmir Valley. He has written extensively on the current political turmoil on Jammu and Kashmir, commonly referred to as Kashmir, arguing for new and innovative approaches in understanding and resolving the simmering discontent in all communities and regions of the state. Dr. Sazawal regularly interacts with various sections of the Kashmiri society, including local and national politicians, bureaucrats, journalists, and security officials. But most of all, he maintains contact with the ordinary Kashmiris, and especially religious minorities who are typically the first to sense sweeping changes in the complex political landscape in Kashmir. Dr. Sazawal has been invited by the US administration, the US Congress, and major policy think tanks to address various aspects of the Kashmir problem. He is a frequent commentator on the Voice of America, urban programs, Urdu program, not urban program, Beam to South Asia. He is also a member of a non-governmental organization accredited to the United Nations Human Rights Council and frequently speaks in Geneva on changing political and human rights situation in Kashmir. The title of his talk is The Kashmir Conundrum. I think that's his favorite title. In this talk, he will discuss his observations from the 2 recent visits to the valley.
As a consultant to the U.S. government, which is again one of your disclaimer that I do actually do, I am the only one actually from, as far as I know, from Kashmir who actually is involved in advising the U.S. government on Kashmir matters. But lately, quite frankly, there is not much of an activity, so there has not been any reason for any policy discussion on Kashmir because it is not on the radar that much. But there was an interest at one time when people from UN Human Rights Commission were in Washington along with the US State Department. And there was a kind of an evolution of discussion in which they said, you know, Kashmir, we have tried just about everything. You know, we have tried mediation, we were not publicly known. We have tried wars, we have tried terrorism, we have tried, you know, we have tried all kinds of things. We don't doubt the sincerity of both Indians and Pakistanis to come to some agreement if Kashmiris were involved, and Kashmiris are involved maybe, but there is, you know, somebody put it, they are crosstalk with each other that everything ends up to be a noise, background noise. They don't really have a coherence of views. But at the end of the day, is there anything else that we have missed so far that we are not looking at? And so what I ended up doing after that is, basically from my perspective, I think the political issues are almost beaten to death. I mean, there are 600,000 websites on Kashmir which expound on everything, name your choice of what you want. They're all there. Indian brutalization by the Indian forces, Pakistani problems with political issues. I mean, every political issue has been brought to the fore, and so what I decided to do was do something different. I decided that I'm going to go and take a few visits to the valley, and the ground rule will be we will not discuss politics. So tell me, since we already know what the politics is, so tell me what else is going on there that affects essentially that would make me conclude there's something else, other dimension that perhaps is not there. Now, there's a temptation when you go through this exercise to say, well, you know, this is happening everywhere else. Well, you didn't pick up anything unique from Kashmir. But I think as I'll unravel this towards the end, I will argue otherwise. And of course, we can always discuss this in the question and answer session. I generally have what I call discussion circles in Kashmir. I had one about 3 years back, which did very well. Then I had these 2, which with my visits last year and this year, which were more closer. I have one discussion circle with journalists, where I bring basically journalists together. The second discussion circle I have is with NGO types, the social activists, that I bring them together. The third one is with the women activists. Probably the most interesting of all discussions. They're either lawyers, some are in political fields, some are doing social activities, and then the intellectuals usually at the university. I at the University of Kashmir. I have spoken in the last. I didn't speak in the last round in February, but I spoke previous year. Was invited to do a lecture and have a discourse with the intelligentsia there. And finally, I met with the minorities, and which included not only Pandits but also Sikhs. So there's a so what I'm going to present here is essentially a sort of a evolution of that thinking that came out of those discussions. And so I basically have, 7 things to talk about. As I heard, our temptation to talk about Kashmir is, oh geez, isn't it sort of like Palestine or, or Chechnya or something like that? And from outside, it sort of looks like that. But when you go inside and actually talk to the people at the street level, you actually find out things that are like uneven economic development, conflicts and crime, militants, non-state actor militants with international networks, and excessive response from the security forces. You find endemic corruption. You find high degree of unemployment. You find a political, essentially, very sort of political unhappiness. You find a lot of internally displaced people, and you find high levels of debt that these that state carry. So actually, if you go back and look at the all these dimensions, all these things actually end up into dimensions of the basically which is called Human Development Index, HDI, and then you correspond it to the where exactly is that kind of a thing. And you find out that's really more like sub-Saharan region of Africa. Countries like Congo, Angola, Chad, Mali, these are the countries that are actually closer to the situation in Kashmir than our own exotic sense of believing it's more like, more what I will call sexy appeal of the, of the Middle East or some situations around there, and we'll go into that as we go down the steps, and I'll basically explain how that works. Public loyalty is almost evenly divided between political people who are part of the system, political people who are not in the system, and even militants that exist there. You cannot argue any of them is less important than the other. They all actually contribute to the chaos that exists there. And the second commonality with against sub-Saharan Africa is controlling the state machinery and acquiring unfettered access to public funds is really the main purpose of political persuasion, though vehicle for, you don't deliver the message in that way. Nobody can speak that way. But there's an historical trend in every one of those that is, at the end of the day, what they're really looking for. Politics being increasingly patrimonial, which is also in India and other countries, but it is spoils oriented. And again, this continuing contest for political and economic domination is a very interesting aspect between the various entities that essentially roam around in Kashmir. So in the end, what happens is the state is unable to provide basic services and security. I mean, it's basically nobody feels secure. And so you have actually what we call a triple crisis of governance. You have lack of accountability because basically there's lack of rule of law. And, things are done in whatever made you expedite the issue and is expediently resolved, and you have an inability to resolve economic crisis, which is really a steep. And then I wanted to say at the end, what can I say to picturize that particular dysfunctionality? How would I say it? I mean, I could have used other. I could have said, like last month, 4 babies were stolen from the veterinary hospital there. It didn't even get addressed in the newspapers. And there was only one story that came out, which was from Laldet, where basically the baby was recovered from Pulwama. And in all these cases, the hospital employees are suspected. But the GB Pant hospital employees, they're all connected to, which I'll talk about later, they all belong to a different political stream, and there are restrictions about reporting on them in the local papers, as well as the guy who stole the baby in the Laldet wasn't, so they allowed the story on that. I could have talked about that to show the dysfunctionality. I could have talked about how the number of people that die on the roads is triple in the valley. Is triple the number of people that die with military and militant actions combined. And yet, that's not a surprise, there are lots of places, and yet, the city has no traffic control system, including red lights. City of 800,000 does not have red lights, because nobody will obey the law. I mean, you can give different examples. Anyway, I chose the example of the stray dogs, because there was a consensus.
I think that's very important.
There was census recently
Most
completed,
important.
and believe it or not, in the census they actually also, rightly or wrongfully, most people think that's an under number. That number is above 100,000. And here's a challenge for you guys while I do this presentation. Tell me, why do you think there is no action so far on these issues? They didn't show up yesterday. Think about it, and I will come to it at the end.
There's always been like that.
Huh?
There's always
No,
been
it has never been like that. It's never been where children almost, there are 2 cases of children being attacked. Yeah, attacked every day. It's never been like that. We have had stray dogs, but you have no idea if you have to go there to know what we're talking about. These are packs. They run after people, like you won't believe. But that's to me, that's not even half the story. The half the story is why it's not that problem being resolved.
So I'm not talking about dogs. I'm just saying that lack of accountability and the lack of rule of law.
Right.
It's been the story of Kashmir from the beginning.
Well,
At least
yeah,
I have seen.
okay, okay, and I don't disagree, but what I'm just saying is that we are trying to now understand the fact of the matter is everything else has failed. Failed in the sense nothing has brought a closure. Is there something else that we have missed in the thing? Now you're saying, well, this is a thing that's a well-known fact. It is a well-known fact, but you need to now fit it with the data that I'm presenting here, and then we'll see where that data leads you to. So I'm basically right now, as a policy maker, I'm giving you the data that essentially will end up actually end up in the story where if you saw a bullet line which said triangle of misery, I'm going to take it to you to the triangle of misery, and that's how we'll end up.